Now, yesterday, I talked about Paul Krugman and his issues with journalists that have had the audacity to report on Hillary Clinton, to report on some of the things that she's done, the Clinton Foundation, some of the emails, especially ones that, for example, showed collusion between the media and the DNC trying to shut down Bernie Sanders during the primary. So journalists will report on these things and report the facts, right? Because it's their emails, right? We're just reporting on it, or how the State Department and the Clinton Foundation, donors to the Clinton Foundation had received, in some circumstances, access to Hillary Clinton. Now, having the audacity to report on that, well, that didn't sit right with Paul Krugman, right? Now, I did a video on that yesterday, and it was a long video. So I understand if some people missed that, okay? But anyway, upon publishing this video, I was told by Hillary Clinton supporters that Paul Krugman, no, he wasn't telling journalists not to do their job. No. No, you misunderstood him. You misunstood the infinite wisdom of Paul Krugman, right? No. He just wants the media to cover Donald Trump with as much scrutiny as they're giving to Hillary Clinton in her emails. Now, look, that's a fair enough request, right? That if indeed the media was not doing negative coverage of Donald Trump. Now, there was a time that this was true, where the media was not doing their due diligence on Donald Trump, when they were not reporting on the massive scandals, Trump University, Trump Steaks, all the different failures of his casinos, and all that stuff. Okay? And if Krugman came up with that argument before, okay, hey, I'm with you, dude. I want fair and equal media coverage. I want Trump to be covered, his negatives. I want Hillary Clinton and her negatives to be covered as well. Okay, that would be fair. Now, the thing is as I said, Krugman says, no, we're doing too much negative on Hillary and not enough on Donald Trump. Well, that's not true. And I have a good example of this. At least a good example of the amount of time they spend on just covering Donald Trump in the corporate media. And look, corporate media is corporate media. They love covering Donald Trump, and they love covering the stupid things that he says. And then the pundits come out and they like to comment on it. They do commentary like what I'm doing right now, right? Commentary on what he says, and normally it's never good. Okay. I mean, there are so many times that Katrina Pearson, Trump's spokeswoman, could be laughed at on television. That counts as negative coverage. But anyway, I want to get to my point here, and talk about the difference in coverage and the amount of time being covered by the corporate media on these two candidates. And for that, I go to these rallies. Right. Now, on Tuesday, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton held rallies at almost the same exact time. Right. Now, Trump was doing an event in Virginia and Clinton was holding one in Florida. Now, Trump was doing this sort of national security focused kind of Q&A with former Defense Intelligence Agency Chief Michael Flynn. All right. So, they did this Q&A. They talked about Iraq. They talked about how much of a mess it is, how much our military is so underpowered, right? And we got to rebuild the military. We got to build the military up so we can protect America. Okay, that was their conversation. Now, Hillary Clinton, for her part, during her rally, she talked about issues like college affordability and small businesses. Okay, well, fair enough, right? Now, how did Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, the corporate media, cover these two events? Well, the differences in how they covered it is that they focused almost exclusively on Donald Trump. Now, here's a bit of a breakdown. Now, the networks started carrying Trump's remarks at about 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time, when Clinton started speaking around 2:30. Now, the networks, when this happened, there's a 15-minute difference. So you've got 15 minutes of Trump. Hillary Clinton starts speaking, and what do? They put her in a tiny box in the corner. Muted. Okay, to be fair to MSNBC, they did put up both side by side and did some commentary. Fair enough. Okay, Let's have them both in their own respective boxes. Just some commentary on a little bit on Trump, a little bit on Clinton. We're good, right? Pros and cons of each. That's fair reporting. Okay. Now, Martha McCallum, who is a Fox News anchor, let's go to Fox News here, and said to Trump, let's listen to a little bit of this to get the flavor of it. The flavor. I'm sure that flavor is crap. But anyway, Fox stayed with Trump after that for the next 23 minutes before switching to Clinton at 2:41 and carrying her uninterrupted for the next 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Compared to Trump's 23. Oh, well, you know what? That's Fox News. To be fair. Okay, let's go to MSNBC. MSNBC carried Trump even longer, starting about the same time and going until 2:50, which is a total of 35 minutes. After that, they then switched to Clinton, right? And she was on from 2:51 until the end of her remarks at 3:14, which is a total of 23 minutes. Okay. Now, what about CNN? CNN's supposed to be, the most trusted name in news, right? Most trusted name. They carried Trump from 2:15 to 2:42, which is a total of 28 minutes, and Hillary Clinton for a grand total of 8 minutes. 8 minutes on CNN. So look, MSNBC by far obviously gave the most time to Hillary Clinton's speech. But they still covered Trump 12 minutes longer. However, CNN and Fox News were even more dismal. Single digits. Anybody who's thinking that Clinton gets more negative coverage or just coverage in general than Donald Trump doesn't seem to be paying attention to the actual news. Okay? Look, the truth is that the media loves the Trump shit show. They jump in it. I mean, who can forget CBS chief executive Les Moonves saying to investors that Trump, hey, he may not be good for America, but they're damn good for CBS. That's how they think about this whole thing. We're going to cover Trump, whether it be negative or positive. We're just going to cover Trump because we know that's what people are going to tune into. That's what the people are watching. And we want to get that ad revenue. I mean, it's the same thing as it's the reason that they didn't cover Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders ran an issue-oriented campaign. He was out there every day talking about the issues. He had very little coverage. And some of it was positive, and there was a lot of it that was also quite negative as well on this coverage. So, but look, there's an interesting stat too that I want to kind of throw into this, right? Speaking about how much Trump gets in advertising and media. Well, working with the research firm MediaQuant, the New York Times estimated that Trump received $2 billion in free media coverage from the start of his campaign in March 2016. Well, that free media means exposure, right? Exposure for a candidate generally is a good thing because it builds name recognition. Now, you could argue that Trump's already got name recognition. However, with Trump dominating the media already, well, it kind of left no oxygen in the room for anybody else. For a John Kasich, who's not so well known, right? Or on the case of Bernie Sanders, well, Bernie Sanders, right? Not getting a lot of name recognition because he's not getting a lot of media coverage. But now, what about Hillary Clinton, right? Well, Hillary Clinton, where is she, right? Other than being in the little box in the corner. Well, she's actually been trying to stay away from the press. And that's actually politically smart. And I'll get to that in a minute. But look, she's doing speeches and rallies, right? Which is a normal part of campaigning. You kind of have to do that. You can't run an entire political campaign for president hiding in your hotel room. So she goes out and she gives speeches. And They don't get covered very well. In fact, they'll sit there and wait for Donald Trump to come to an empty podium. And they'll sit there and watch that for 15 minutes. And Hillary Clinton gives a speech about, look, let's be honest, she gives a speech about policy. She's more policy focused than Donald Trump. You've got to admit that. Oh, they don't care about that. Media does not care about policy. And so they don't cover it. At least not as much. Now, as far as Hillary Clinton, it kind of goes into her favor a little bit. Because the more she stays away from the media, the more it makes it about Trump. As I said, I'll get to that in a minute. But I just want to point out, too, that she hasn't been giving any press conferences. And she hasn't been doing a lot of interviews. And the ones that she does do, ironically, one of them's been on Fox News. And I think the other one's been on CBS or ABC. So there's where Hillary Clinton's at. Now, as to why, well, look, there's a reason that she's trying to stay out of the media. And that's because this election is a bit of a referendum. Now, if the election is about her, she will likely lose. Why? It's because she has the second highest negatives ever in an election. She has record amounts of people, numbers of people that don't like her, don't trust her. Okay? Now, the candidate that has the highest negatives just happens to also be her opponent, Donald Trump. Now, I've said before, if this election is about him, he will likely lose. Because he often tends to shoot himself in the dick. But anyway. Now, what's funny is that there was a recent poll out. I believe it was a CNN or RC poll that shows them essentially in a dead heat nationally. Right? So, Trump's been having a good... I guess he's been having a good week. And she's been losing her lead. And it's kind of distressing. But anyway. I still think that this election is still more of a referendum on who we hate the least. But anyway, back to Krugman, right? Now, last year at this time, I've got to point out that the media was not doing its due diligence on Trump, right? So if his article had been written back then, it actually would have been more appropriate because he would have been right. Yes, the media was not paying attention to Trump. They were not going after his negatives. They were not looking at the scandals, things like Trump University, once again, Trump's model management, whereas he literally imported models from other countries to have him work without visas. Or the $25,000 donation, right, to, what is it, Pam Bondi? Yeah. So, look, that's that stuff that didn't get covered back then, whereas Hillary Clinton was... rightly so, getting hit in the media for her Goldman Sachs speeches and taking money from corporations, and then wrongly so by other things like Benghazi, right? So if Krugman came out there and wrote this article last year at that time and said, hey, media, step it up, do your job, and actually report on the facts. Report on Donald Trump, too. Okay? I'd have been like, okay, yeah, great. Now, the one thing that I will always disagree with is it saying that attacks on Hillary Clinton are not journalism. There are some that are obviously bullshit, but then there are some that are actual attacks. And to broad brush any journalist that goes after and takes a look and raises questions about Hillary Clinton and the fact that she's raised money from giant corporations and that she's had some conflict of interests within the State Department while she was at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation, to say that, to write all that off as this, oh, you're just a part of the vast right-wing smear machine. It's kind of bullshit when there are actual journalists that are just looking out and saying, hey, man, these are the facts. And saying that if you point out the facts, well, then you're helping Trump. So I will never agree with that part of Krugman's analysis because, look, it's wrong. But we understand that Paul Krugman is nothing more than a Hillary Clinton surrogate at this point. He's a campaign guy. And he's always been for Hillary. But anyway, look. The bottom line here is that if you come out and tell me that Hillary Clinton is still being covered too much in the media, her negatives. And Donald Trump, not enough with all of the terrible stuff that he's done. I'm going to kind of call bullshit on you. Because as somebody who covers media, I do have the tendency to pay attention to it more than the average person. Okay? It's because it's the nature of the job. And to me, it seems like Donald Trump is so reviled by the corporate media, and for good reason, that they're not going easy on him. Yes, they're still covering the hell out of him. Which, of course, is, go back to Les Moonves, or movies, it's just good for business. But also, the corporate media has a vested interest in getting Hillary Clinton elected. Because she is best for the establishment. And that's who she represents. So you got to understand, this is a complicated issue. There's a lot of parts to it, right? When it comes to the media. But as I said, they're not going easier. In fact, they're fact checking them in real time. And I'm actually in favor of that. Okay, I'm in favor of that, but I wish they did that to everyone. And what I'm looking for is an actual even playing field. And what I'm seeing is that they're disproportionately covering Donald Trump more than they are Hillary Clinton. And talking about her negatives. I have no problem with them pointing out the negatives about Donald Trump. But I also wish they would do the same for Hillary Clinton and vet them both. And have them talked about both. That's what I'm asking for. So if you're asking for it to be equal, as I am, you know I totally agree with you. Because at this point, though, it's anything but equal. And that's what I'm trying to point out.